Hello, and welcome to episode 97 of the Eyes Free Sports podcast. My name is Greg Lindberg. Here on this episode, we are chatting with a young man from the Cleveland, Ohio area who is actually still in high school, just starting his senior year now of high school. And he has already gone on to working as a sports color commentator for multiple sports, in spite of his blindness. And I think you'll really enjoy his energy and enthusiasm for what he does. So let's go ahead now and hit the broadcast booth and get jumping into episode 97. All right, so my guest here on this episode of Eyes Free Sports is Allan Wylie. And Allan is a blind sportscaster, sports commentator. Allan, welcome to the podcast.
Well, thanks for having me. I love being here.
Awesome. Really appreciate you taking the time to do this.
Yeah.
In general, I'm a huge sports fan and kind of a sports media nerd, sports broadcaster nerd.
Me too.
So awesome. Yeah, always super cool to connect with fellow, sports broadcasters and sports enthusiasts.
Absolutely.
Cool. Alrighty. So why don't we just kick things off here with kind of your early years. Talk to me initially here about where you were born and your early years.
Yeah, so I was born at Fairview Hospitals, which is in Cleveland. I live in Westlake, Ohio, and I was born, initially, my parents didn't know I was blind. And I think that they only knew a few months in when we were at a doctor's appointment. I don't know the exact story, but I think she said something like, you have to get him checked out or something. And so we got to the eye doctor, and then Dad's question is like, can he see? And the doctor says, no, he can't. But he's like, he's going to be fine. He's going to be very smart. He can do most of what other kids can do. It's just, he might have a little difficulty. He may be a little bit different. And so that's how we knew I was blind. Gotcha.
Interesting. And then, so what exactly is your eye condition?
Leber's congenital amaurosis, I think is how you say it, or LCA. And I was actually born blind, so this wasn't something that happened over time.
Gotcha. Yeah, I actually have that same condition, but very different journey. I, had some vision as a child, and over time it has changed.
Yeah.
And then any siblings or?
Yes, I have an older brother. His name is Jacob. He is in junior year at Bowling Green. He's studying to be a history teacher. And unlike me, he is not interested in sports at all. Now, what he will do is, let's say, my favorite team's playing, the Cubs or something. And when I was little, he'd be like, yeah, go Cubs. It's not like he didn't care what happened. He just wanted to see me mad. So, but no, other than that, he's not really interested in the sports, but he and I, we're both interested in history. So. Sure.
Gotcha. So then as far as education, have you pretty much been mainstreamed in your schooling years?
Yep, I'm at Westlake High School. I'm in my senior year right now. And actually, one of the perks of that is I get to get in late arrival and I get to leave early. So,
ooh.
There you go. So, but yeah, so I'm in my senior year. I did spend one semester at the Ohio State School for the Blind, but we figured out that wasn't really for me. So we went back to Westlake. But I've been mainstream pretty much all my life.
Sure. Nice. And just in general, as far as accommodations, support from your teachers, perhaps even classmates, would you say everyone's been pretty supportive in your education?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Everyone's been really willing to help. They want to know what I think, how they can help me, how I can maybe help them a little bit, understand what's going on. But yeah, no, everyone's been, all throughout school, it's been really good.
Right. Great to hear. And then, so I know you mentioned you are a senior right now in high school, and as far as college, you are kind of looking around?
Yes, so I visited Rowan University, which is a small school in Glassboro, New Jersey. I believe it's outside Philadelphia. And then I visited University of Georgia in Athens in last November. And in a couple weeks, I'm visiting Syracuse. And then in October, I am visiting Central Michigan and or Western Michigan. And then we don't know the time of exactly when it's going to happen, but I'm going to visit Ball State too.
Oh, wow. Yep.
So
quite a variety you're looking at, it sounds like.
Yeah.
Nice. So then in terms of sports broadcasting, sportscasting, I'm curious kind of what age, thinking back, do you remember really kind of being interested in, sports in general, let's say, and then also kind of the sportscasting realm?
Yeah, so really, I started getting interested in sports when I was very young. I believe it was back, my first memories of when I was like two or three, listening to Cleveland Indians, now, of course, Guardians baseball games. And mom, I think, has a picture of me. We had a radio in our kitchen. We don't have it anymore, but we had a radio when I was like two. And she's got a picture of me with my hand on the radio listening to the game.
Hmm.
And I'd always listen to Indians and Cavs games as well when I'd go to sleep. The only problem would be I'd stay up for post game. My parents didn't know until much later, of course, but I
Sure.
stayed up for post game. And so I started getting interested in sports when I was really young. The broadcasting came a little bit later. I had to say I was probably like 10 or 11. I was listening to Michigan football, and their broadcasters at the time, Dan Deerdorf and Jim Brandstatter, who have now retired. And I was listening to one of their games, and it popped in my head. It's like, I could do this. Like I can be just like them. I obviously probably couldn't do play by play, but I could do color commentating. So I told my dad about it. And then when I got into high school, of course, the freshman year was kind of odd because of COVID. But sophomore year, I got to do Westlake football, which is my local high school football games, color commentary. And I've been doing those ever since. I've also helped out with a couple of their basketball games.
Wow. Wow. That's awesome. And I'm curious, how did that kind of come to fruition? How did you make that connection, with the athletic department and coaches and really get that opportunity?
Yeah, so basically, my teacher, I took a class called TV production in my second semester of freshman year. My teacher, we notified him that I'd be interested in doing the football games. And so he's like, okay, yeah, we'll give you a shot. And then he paired me up with a kid named Johnny. And then he had us do a football game on the screen where the sound was off. It's just Johnny and I calling the game, doing the football game, like if we were doing it in real life. But of course, it wasn't real life. It was a few months before, after the game actually took place. So we did the play-by-play and color commentary, and then Mr. S, who's my teacher, came in and said, this really sounds good. I want to do this again. And so we agreed, yeah, let's do this again. So we kept doing more like demo play-by-play games, and then it got to the point where he and I got a really good chemistry. And then once I got into sophomore year and we were able to do the football games from the stadium, it was really just it was my element, really.
Right. So you kind of knew right away, this is where I belong.
This
This is
is
what I like to
Yeah,
do.
this is what I want to do. Yeah,
Yeah, that's awesome to kind of find that niche, find that groove.
yeah,
And so I know you mentioned chemistry, chemistry with your fellow broadcaster, your broadcast partner or whatnot.
yeah,
And
yeah.
how does that kind of develop? Give us some insight into kind of that relationship and how, maybe that takes some time to build that rapport with your fellow broadcaster.
Yeah, I mean, it does take a little bit of time. What I try to do is I try to talk to them before the game, like get to know them a little bit. So, and I try to be friends with them, off the mic too, because if we can be friends, then that'll translate to better chemistry on the mic. And so I'll talk to them before the game. If it's their first game, I'll say, hey, it's just like telling a story. Just act like you're talking to me. So I try to make them kind of feel as comfortable as they possibly can. And then if I have their phone numbers, we'll maybe text back and forth to see like information on what we have on each team. And maybe I'll give them some pointers along the way, like at halftime or in breaks in the action. So that's really what we try to do. And then over time, it kind of just builds up to where we can kind of bounce ideas off of each other, and we can kind of pick up on what each other is going to say, and we can figure out how to respond.
Sure, makes sense. And so you did mention football and basketball then you've done for your high school?
Yes, yes.
Gotcha. Would you say you prefer broadcasting one of those over the other? Or?
I would say if I had to make a decision, I'd say football. Football's been my go-to sport since I was like 9 or 10. Big Michigan Wolverines fan, big Detroit Lions fan. Sometimes I wish I wasn't, but you know how that goes.
Yep.
Just everything, and I love just the energy, the how they do the play-by-play, the crowd. Football is really something that I love, and Dad would always take me to high school games when he was off on Fridays because he would do the Westlake games when I was like 9 or 10. He'd do the PA announcing. So he would take me to
Okay.
high school games, like local high school games, about 5-10 minutes away from us, and he would do play by play. I'd ask him what kind of formations they're running, what their schemes look like, and then I remember it for the next time we would go to a game if it's the same team.
Right, right. Interesting,
Yeah,
though. You mentioned
yeah,
your dad. So did you kind of inherit his pipes? You kind of got that good voice, pipes for
yeah, yeah,
broadcasting?
yeah. Yeah. So he was doing PA announcing for Westlake from 2015 to 2021. In fact, my first year in the booth, he was his last year. He had to go on and do some other stuff, but yeah, I mean, he's the one that really paved the way. And I think I told him when the option was open. I think my mom mentioned to him, or just us in passing, hey, the Westlake PA announcing job is open. Dad's like, I don't know if I can get it. I'm like, yeah, you should do it, Dad.
Hmm.
And then he tried out for it, and well, the rest I say is history. He got the job, and they loved him.
Sure, sure. That's awesome. And I am curious as far as basketball, obviously much more fast paced, than football. Would you say that's kind of a challenge when it comes to broadcasting?
It can be. It definitely can be. You have to figure out how to condense what you're going to say in about 10 to 15 seconds. Because it's not like in football where, you can have a small break in the action. Basketball, it's he hits a three and then the other guys are down on the other end trying to make a basket of their own. So you have to kind of condense what you want to say. Make sure you get the most important stuff out of there. And then if you have to say something else, wait for either another basket or a stoppage in play. And then you can kind of get that other stuff out.
Right, right. Great point. So then I know very recently you actually connected with a minor league baseball team and got a really cool opportunity with them. Talk to me about that.
Yeah, so the Lake County Captains, the single A affiliate of the Guardians, I don't think that they know I'm a Tigers fan, by the way, so we're going to keep that secret from them. But we originally got to the Captains via the Cleveland Sight Center, who helps people like me get jobs. And originally it was going to be maybe they'll have me on air to interview me, but I was going to answer some cell phones or whatever. And then Dad sent their broadcasting director, Cole Liggett, who has been a really big part of what I'm doing right now, my work. And Cole said, we got to get this guy in the booth. And then so that's what we did. We got in the booth, and then the guy that works with me, great guy, Logan, kind of helps me out. Like, and he tells where the college is. Like if different players went to colleges, he would tell me where they go, and then I'd give some facts about that college. So yeah, I mean, it really started out with the Captains just a couple months ago, and I actually get to do another game on Wednesday, where our local news station, Channel 5, will be out there, and The Athletic, Zach Meisel, will be out there, and he's going to write a story about it.
Wow, wow, that's amazing. And how does it feel to, this is professional baseball, obviously. How does it feel to
Yeah,
actually get this chance at such an early stage in your life here?
it's just beyond words. It's wonderful. I never thought at the age of 17 I'd be calling a professional baseball game. Baseball is really how I got into sports. I would listen to Tom Hamilton and the Cleveland Guardians, Indians broadcaster. And to think that I could do an affiliate of the Guardians games on minor league baseball on their streaming platform with a guy that does professional baseball after he graduated college. It's almost surreal in a moment. And when I do it, I just love every second of it.
Sure, sure. I can definitely sense the passion in your voice.
Yeah.
So as far as preparing for a game, I know you touched on this a little bit earlier, but talk to me a little more about how you really, get ready for a game, just research, interviews, your approach.
Yeah. So for football, I have a couple of friends of mine that are on the football team. And then I'll ask them kind of what do you notice from the other team that'll get you some, like, what concerns you? What do you have to do to combat this? What are your adjustments that you made? Who are their key players to watch? And things like that. And then for baseball, I have to go over to the MILB.com and then I'll look at each of the other team's players and see their ERA, their batting average, how many home runs they've hit, how good their pitching is, how many wins do they have on the mound. So it really depends on the sport, but I usually find my information through the internet.
Sure, sure. I see. So do you get a chance to connect with any captains, players, or coaches, or not too much directly?
Not too much directly, because when I'm usually there, I'm usually in the broadcasting booth, and then they're always on the field, and we don't really interview them either, so it's kind of hard to get connections. But no, I haven't been able to talk to him yet, but I'm hoping I can.
Right, right. Makes sense. And then I think I'd read that you do have a Braille device that you use as far as like note taking or whatnot. Talk to me about that.
Yeah, the Braille note. It's the best way I can describe it is it's a computer but instead of print on the display, there's Braille. And that way I can kind of move my hands across the screen and read the different dots, which symbolize the letters and the words. And I can kind of get what it's saying, what the site is saying. Obviously, I have to make sure it's accessible with the Braille note, but usually more often than not, it is. So basically, it's just a computer, but instead of the print you see on the screens, it's Braille on the display so that I could read it. And I've been taking Braille since I was about 3. So
Wow, definitely something I have not learned and want to, so.
yeah, yeah.
And do you use that during the broadcast as well? Do you have notes that you kind of put, that you read in Braille, or?
Not usually. I use it a lot before the broadcast to write down some stuff, and then I'll read over what I wrote before I leave. That's mainly what I do.
Right, I see. And then, so in terms of feedback that you've gotten from listeners, from viewers, whatnot, anything you want to mention there?
I mean, everyone's just been really great about it. Even like the constructive criticism I've gotten from some of the people that I show my broadcast to, it's been great. And I couldn't do it without them. My family, my friends have been supportive. My school has been supportive. The captains have really been supportive. Everyone's just done really great things. And, I can't really thank them enough.
Right. Nice. Just rewinding a little bit, I know you mentioned as far as your high school football games that you do broadcast and kind of being friends, with some of the players, obviously classmates, students playing on the teams that you might have in classes. And do you find that challenging as a broadcaster to be objective, even though you might know some of these folks on the field?
Not really, to be honest with you. Not really. I mean, I feel like as a broadcaster, it's my duty to kind of put my feelings about something aside and then let the people know the facts. If one of my friends dropped the football in the end zone, I'm not going to, sugarcoat it. I'm going to say, hey, he's got to work on his hands during practice. You know what I mean? He's got to work on keeping a better hold of the football. So I really don't find it that hard. And partly because since they're friends of mine, I think they know that I have to be that objective. So it's not that hard, in my opinion.
Right. Got you. So then looking ahead, as far as career goals, just kind of career goals in general, and specifically when it comes to sports broadcasting, any specific goals?
Yeah, so I want to be on a talk radio show. Somebody that I know does kind of both talk radio and commentary. His name's Doug Karsh. He's a Detroit sports radio host, and he has his own show, and he does Michigan football. He does the play-by-play, and then another guy, John Jansen. He co-hosts a show, and he color commentates on Michigan football. So that's really my ultimate goal, is to do a talk radio show, preferably in either a local or national. I don't mind really where, and then also still be able to do some color commentary. Gotcha.
And so football, would you say, is that kind of your preference then?
Yeah.
Sure. Cool. So then, like I mentioned to you at one point, obviously I've had a lot of blind athletes, visually impaired athletes, that actually compete in sports on this podcast. And I'm curious, have you had the chance to play, say, goalball, beepball, any sports for the blind?
Oh, yeah. I've played goalball. I played goalball from when I was 8 to about 13 or 14. That was something I really loved doing. And then baseball was a lot of fun. I would play that off and on for about, I'd say, like 9 to 12 to 13 years old. So, yeah, I've gotten to try those types of sports. Those types of sports. And it's pretty, I like them. It's really creative.
Oh, nice. Yeah, and definitely shout out to the Cleveland Scrappers. I know they're a beepball team that's been around in Cleveland for a long time. That's kind of my main sport, beepball, so shout out to them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and would you ever consider broadcasting, say, a goalball match or a beepball game, or kind of a blind sport as well?
Maybe. If the opportunity arises, yeah, absolutely.
Cool. Would be a nice kind of spin on things, right?
Yeah.
Awesome. Alrighty. Well, again, we've been chatting with Allan Wylie here on the Eyes Free Sports podcast. And Allan, really appreciate the time. It's been a true pleasure getting to chat with you here and getting to know you a little better. And definitely wish you the best of luck.
And thanks for having me. Thank you very much.
Before we put a bow on this episode of the podcast, I did want to highlight a few segments from Allan Wylie in the broadcast booth. And so this is a compilation of a few segments of Allan actually practicing his craft of providing color commentary for some high school football games in Ohio. And I should mention that these segments are courtesy of a radio show that aired them on WEOL AM in Ohio.
Like a racehorse, this dude will not be denied, and this Warrensville defense is just showing a complete lack of tackling there. Could not wrap up against Porcelli. They got good penetration to start off with, but the offensive line did a good job of recovering, holding him up just enough for Porcelli to get through a big hole and get another 1st and goal. Yeah, I'd definitely go back to Cole. He's a very fast player. He's got some good hands, and, he could have had that reception last drive that Westlake had if there wasn't such good man-to-man coverage by Warrensville. But I definitely do a fade route in the back of the end zone to Caden Cole, see if he can haul it in, because he's probably your best option right now. But Warrensville Heights defensively, again, not wrapping up when you need to. You look at those 2 plays, the play with Porcelli where he was just breaking through that defense. They had him right where they wanted him, just could not tackle. The gain against Rummel, they had some good coverage to begin with, but blew it. And when they did have a chance to tackle Rummel, they couldn't do it until he was down at the 15-yard line. So you've got to do a better job of wrapping up immediately as soon as that guy gets the ball, because that could just come back and bite you like it has for Warrensville so many times. They're lucky to be up by 4 right now. Well, if I'm Warrensville Heights' coaching staff, I'm definitely telling the defense, above all else, wrap up. Make short tackles where you know the player cannot get away.
To hear more episodes of the Eyes Free Sports podcast and to subscribe, search for Eyes Free Sports on your favorite podcast platform or visit eyesfreesports.com. Be sure to follow the Eyes Free Sports podcast at facebook.com/eyesfreesports and on Twitter at Eyes Free Sports.